it only makes sense, right? I mean, there's not an organization in existence today that doesn't say, we're not customer focused, we're not customer obsessed, right? We're all are. But it's to the degree that we actually enact that we make that as a part of our core plan. And if customer support has the most conversations with customers than anyone else, it puts us in the driver's seat for reflecting that voice of the customer, right? The highest voice of authority in the business. It puts us at the focal point, the hub, the spokes out to every single department, right?
Yeah.
Yet, you and I talked about this, we have a hard time getting a seat at the table, even, right? Like, tell me a little bit about how you go about earning that seat at the table and making sure that that voice of the customer is coming through and is parsed out in the right ways to all the right people so that they can do their job, whether it's product development or operations or sales or whatever it is, right? All that feedback is coming, right? It's all there.
The first is the shift from transactional and tactical to relational, as well as the switch from symptoms to root causes. I think a support leader has to start with understanding the customer context as well as their employee context, because I do believe that you cannot create the right customer experience if you don't design the right employee experience. So, a great assessment of what's ailing the business in terms of what are the recurring issues, what are the systemic themes, right? What are the patterns that we are seeing at the customer end? That needs to be the voice of the customer that needs to be brought back to the product and development organizations as well as to the management. So having that holistic view, because that holistic view is so important for strategic decision making of whatever plans that you're putting for your first year, 1 year, or 5 year plan. If you don't have that view, how do you prioritize? How do you create or kind of, do the right product portfolio rationalization if you don't have that input? How do you go about designing your end of life support policies or end of maintenance, or what needs to happen for your release planning and what's happening with your releases if you don't have that view? So support leaders cannot just sit there as ticket machinery, ticket management machinery. That's what most of the support organizations end up being. I was interviewed by many leaders a couple of times for different roles. And I did not choose to go to those organizations because in those interviews, all I was asked was, tell me about your metrics, right? Support leaders have been relegated to these, go follow your backlog reduction and get efficient at doing more with less, solve your tickets faster. There's no holistic view of how this function can do much more than what you're expecting it to do. And putting them in the break fix cadence actually ruins the customer experience. So the goal is that you have a view of systemic issues, patterns, and bringing that voice of customer back to the conversation, building really strong product and dev interlock, because development team is themselves busy churning out new releases, fixing bugs and defects. They need help to have a view of what's happening in my product, right?
Right.
So support has to play that role. That whole data-driven decision-making can only be done through support by bringing that view back to the organization. Also, we need to understand, especially in the context like the ones that the businesses that I have led, is that complexity is growing. So it's highly complex, high volume tickets. That is a B2B. And then you have high volume, low complexity, B2C. The pain on the individuals in the support function is huge because we have been caught up in this reactive firefighting for so long. That's become the rhythm of the organization. We're not done enough for creating the right level of capabilities, whether it's dedicated teams from knowledge, whether it's the subject matter expertise, whether it's the tools, whether it's the automation. So what you're doing is basically reacting after one tickets versus looking at the system as a whole, taking out the recurring patterns, solving for them, building great talent. The other piece, I think, Steve, is the talent management. We are mistaking headcount for talent, right? There is no focus motion in any organization on talent. And it's a very, very important piece, but it's a piece which is very underserved in the sense that there's not enough focus on building subject matter expertise. There is a huge population of highly experienced, high expertise people leaving the system as they are aging population. They've been around for 3 decades, 4 decades. Now they're exiting the system. Have we created enough succession planning? I don't think so. So I think in all, we have done a disservice by not optimizing for back to the basics, the ticket management. If you do process mining of just that piece, you'll see there's so many bottlenecks in there. That tells you again about the capabilities that have not been built or been optimized over time to serve the customers right, and creating conditions of success for your people to be able to be effective at their work. And also remember, support is a catch-all function. So everything, whether it's implementation teams not doing their jobs well, whether it's discovery not happening well, whether sales selling the wrong product, all of that lands in support. Now, if support doesn't do a good job of saying, hey, what's coming to me? And let me go back and inform the rest of the organization of what needs to be fixed, you can't fix for it. So that's the problem that I feel support has a role to play, and a very effective and the most important role to play. And a support leader, by bringing that voice of the customer, the voice of the employee to the strategic, to the C-level table, can change the course of the organization. And not just sitting outside and acting like a functional leader, but leading these charters as a business leader for rest of the organization with cross-functional collaboration, breaking functional silos, and solving these problems as not support problems, solving these problems as business problems.